It's the final round before Christmas. Welcome to the Football Breakdown's Fantasy EFL Gameweek 20 preview. It's Thursday the 19th of December. I'm Matthew South.
And I'm Ian Cooper.
Welcome everyone. Christmas is on the horizon and a triple game week is coming up next week. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, we have a lovely single full house of fixtures to go through. However, if we have a look back to last week, first of all, did you know I'm joined with the top player from Game Week 19 in the entire world on the podcast today? Ian, talk us through it.
See, now that's something I definitely didn't think I was going to be saying, especially when I picked players like Luca Hall to go in my midfield. But yeah, everyone came up trumps here. Both my teams got maximum points, so Sheffield United got 9 points, Chesterfield got 11. Really happy there. I accidentally captained Owen Beck. Probably shouldn't admit that. I just forgot to save the captaincy to somebody else. He ended up getting 15 points because Pickering did come in, so he played left wing and scored a goal, as well as getting the clean sheet there. Really happy. My favourite man, CJ Egan-Riley, can step aside because Osama Ashley is honestly a hero. His interceptions are ridiculous. Got an assist as well, so managed to get 11 points in the early game. Who else has played here? Michael Cooper, bit of a tap in, managed to get the 9 points there. Nothing exciting, but did the job. And Connor Barrett got a clean sheet as well. So yeah, really happy with that. Should ask you, Matt, how did you get on?
It was definitely a disappointing start for me. The Portsmouth gamble backfired horrifically, giving me a fat 0 points for their 4-0 loss against Derby. Then lunchtime Saturday came around and Leeds again fumbled it away from home. They escaped with the draw to at least get 3 points from that. But again, that 1-1 draw, the second worst scoreline that you can have, basically, because a 0-0 and a 2-2 get you the bonus points either way. So yeah, that's a frustrating one. My actual squad wasn't bad. Like Lewis Brunt and Alex Gilby blanked, but Pears 9 points, Suter 9 points, captain to 18, Hamer goal 12 points, Stansfield goal 8 points, Clayworth as well alongside Brunt actually got loads of points for defensive action, so despite them conceding 2 goals and getting a minus point there, he still came back with 5 points, so it was solid. So I managed to get 58 points, which it kind of salvaged the week for me. You know, it wasn't horrific. It started awfully, and I basically got nothing in return for the teams, whereas I believe you got 18 or 21 points in total for your teams.
I got 20 points just from the 2 team selections there.
Exactly. Whereas in comparison, I got 3 from my 2 team selections. Yeah. So it was always an uphill battle for me. Luckily, you know, the Sheffield United stuff came in with Suter and Hamer, as well for your Cooper pick. Argyle playing a little bit better than everyone thought helped there because he managed to grab a couple of save points.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting the save points, to be honest. To make 4 saves, really happy with that. It was just a bit of a bonus. I tell you what, I do this every week. I try and work out what the average sort of score would be. So I look on the weekly list, and I realised, hang on, I've got 100 points here. I've not done too badly. I was like, I wonder where I've gone where I've come in the week, and I realised, I'm actually top. I saw my name at the top and I was like, I think it just puts you there. And I looked at the number to the left of it. I was like, oh, no, it is actually number 1.
Yeah, You're thinking it's the default, this is you compared to everyone else.
Yes.
But in reality, this is you compared to everyone else because you are the one to beat, which was incredible. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's nice that one of us on the pod, it gives us a bit of credibility, I feel like. Not that we needed it. Not that we needed it, but it's something we can lean on at least. It's
been very frustrating because the first few weeks of the season when we weren't doing the pod, but I did have the blog, I was actually pulling away from you. And since you've joined the pod and joined the research, you really, really stepped it up. And I've started to fumble it a bit. So, listen, I promise I'm not the worst player in the world. But yeah, definitely room for improvement on my side of things. But yeah, like you say, gives us that thing to be able to listen, like, at least one of us knows what they're talking about on this show. So
I know. If anything, it gives you more reason to just copy my picks as well. So I can only apologise for that. I didn't realise you knew how well I do at this game, and that you've got to follow along. So fair play.
Exactly. Well, I can tell you now. I think this week I I'm not well, I say I'm not copying any of your picks. I've already picked my team, so whether or not I'm picking players that you're going to talk about, we'll see. But I'm excited to talk about this week because it's another full single game week. You don't have to focus on some doubles. You don't have to worry about teams who aren't playing. Obviously, touch wood, fingers crossed, the weather's going to stay good this weekend and we're not going to get any postponements like it is that time of year. But these are the weeks that I really do look forward to actually doing the research because, I mean, you have to look, well, you do have to look at a lot of players to do it, but
Yeah.
it's more interesting. You cover more bases. Anyone who's slipping under the radar gives you a chance to look at them too. And like I said earlier, like next week is for most teams is a triple game week for the Christmas games, which is going to be chaotic. So it's almost like this is the breather. This is the nice ease in to the Christmas period. So I believe you're going to start us off this week with the championship goalkeeper. So do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, sure. I'll go for it. Now, so for the championship goalkeeper, I was looking at QPR's form lately. It's really caught my eye, and I didn't expect to be saying that with some confidence. But after their challenging games, they played 4 of the top 6. They have unbeaten in 6 games. With the format that Cifuentes has implemented so well last season, and they've come back to that with a brilliant defensive structure, and they're building from that. QPR have 4 clean sheets in the last 5 games, and I'm going to follow along with this trend by picking Paul Nardi. Now, I'll be honest, he's not a keeper I was really aware of. You could say his stats are very mixed this season, but I'd put that down to the poor form at the start of the season and lots of chopping and changing to their defensive line rather than it reflecting on him. Nardi are coming up against Preston at home, and Preston haven't been bad form lately. They've drawn quite a lot, and they have consistently scored as well. Well, mainly just the 1 goal, but their underlying data, I see they're scoring and creating good goal scoring chances as a real weakness. Preston average the 2nd lowest amount of shots on target per 90, which is 3.4, the 8th lowest XG, and the 5th lowest goals per match. So I just feel like it's a really solid case here of a good defensively structured team against a team that struggle creating high goal scoring opportunities. So that's why I've picked Paul Nardi as my pick here.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with the QPR points because my defensive pick is Jimmy Dunn from
I thought we might go the
QPR.
same way. I thought we might go the same way.
Yeah, I've holding a smirk on the call there when you were talking about QPR. As a lot of your notes are my notes, which makes this job a little bit easier for me. Because I don't really have to mention too much of the QPR defence because you've just covered it. The only thing I will add to that, well, there's 2 things to add. One, the goal they conceded last week to Bristol City away was a free kick from Twine. So in the last 5 games, the 4 clean sheets came before that. So it's also no goals from open play in that. So then you have to go back to Stoke at home when they drew 1-1 while Cannon scored after about 20 minutes. So if you want to then take from that, there's a good 65, 70 minutes of that game where they didn't concede as well. And yeah, they really have just turned the corner. The fixtures have helped. But their last 3 home games, they played Oxford and they limited Oxford to 4 shots. They played Norwich, they limited Norwich to 5 shots. When they played Stoke, they limited Stoke to 9 shots. So to also go with your Preston comments, Preston don't take that many shots, they don't create that many chances. And QPR at home right now are not letting you have any chances. They're not letting you take many shots. So really the clean sheet just seems really high, really like in play here. And then Jimmy Dunn himself, 52 points in his last 5 games. He's really, really on it at the moment. In his last 5 as well, it was a goal and an assist too. So he does carry that attacking threat. They've had a young Liam Morrison come into the back four as well, playing centre back alongside Cook, who was under considerations for me. He's a 0% pick as well, and I thought I'd just bring him up because he's really stepped into this role well. But I do think if you're gonna go QPR, I think Nardi and goal is a good choice, and I do think out of the defence it's Dunn who stands out with also his attacking prowess. His goal recently, quite an emotional one for him as well, as it was just after his father had passed away. So you really saw that performance there that was quite emotional. But listen, he's still playing. He has got 5 yellow cards, but I did double check. We are just after the window where
Yeah, yeah.
5 yellows would kick in, so I was worried about the suspension. But it's looks like I'm pretty sure it resets after their 20th game, and they've played 20 games now, or their 20th game is when he picked up the yellow anyway. So that should reset. He will be playing, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, done is the pick for me there.
Perfect. Not to spoil anything, I'm really glad I changed my sub point one pick actually because I was going to go Steve Cook. So
Very good.
I'm
Yeah,
really glad I've gone for somebody else. So I have been left with something to talk about rather
I
than
know.
us both covering the keeper and defence.
Would it would have been horrible if you went Cook and I went Morrison, and we basically covered everyone bar the QPR left back in
Yeah.
in our picks today. So that would have been interesting.
No, exactly. But I'll get us back on track with the Championship midfielder. And the first game that stood out to me in these fixtures was Leeds playing Oxford, especially with Oxford's poor away form and the dismissal of Buckingham. It looked a really good avenue to go down here. But I'm really not a massive fan of the options that you get on the fantasy site with midfielders for Leeds. And obviously, Gruev's injured. Rothwell is taking place, but he plays in such a deep role that he doesn't really offer much to the team. He doesn't get the interceptions, so his chance creation is just the key passes. You don't really get enough bonus points for those key passes, in my opinion. And at the minute, Dan James is heavily rotated. And I just find Aronson to be one of the most frustrating players currently with his attacking output. So I've had to look elsewhere. So I'm trying to pick someone who's playing at home this season in the Championship, as the home and away form is a real differential. And so a player I want to talk about is Joe Bellingham. And I don't know if we discussed him yet. He's obviously really highly selected at 12.5%, but I know I haven't used him. So let's just find out what I've missed out on first. Joe has played 5 games since being sent off against QPR and averaged 7.4 points in those games. He's had 13 key passes, 5 interceptions, 2 assists, and 1 goal. So it's fair to say he's really busy at the minute and playing really well. They play Norwich at home, who are starting to experience a little blip in form. In their last game against Burnley, they named Marcondes, Nunes, and Slimane in their midfield three. And I just wouldn't call that conservative. And if it's the same case here at the Stadium Light, I think Bellingham are going to have a real licence to push further forward and really influence himself on this game.
Yeah, I think Job's a great shout. Definitely, I did have a look at some of them myself for some of the picks, and it's definitely their midfielders that stand out more so. With Roberts back, with Mondle back, Riggs there kind of floating around as well. They do seem to be picking their form back up. Like you say, the Championship seems to be very home heavy results wise, but I'm actually going away from home for my attacker pick, and I'm gonna pick Liam Cullen, who's in 0.1% of teams at the moment, playing for Swansea, playing just off the striker. He's got 6 goals this season, but 4 of them have come in his last 6 games, and in that time he's also picked up 2 assists. So it's 42 points in 6 games, so a 7-point average, which I think is really good for a forward, because unless you're hitting, your Barrys and your Saints, who can get those 2 or 3 goals, for a striker it's really hard to pick up points that aren't goals. So it's good to see, your average is there, bearing in mind, those have all been individual games of goals. It's very consistent. It's not one-off like big win and then 2-point games over the course of the season as well. 2.5 shots per 90 with over 1 of those on target a game. Also 1 chance created per 92. He's also started the last 6 games, which is important when you're looking at these Championship sides. You want someone who you're confident is going to play. Swansea have had quite a bit of rotation recently, but Cullen is the mainstay in that team right now. He is that main attacking threat for them, and they're facing a Hull side who have no win and just 4 points in their last 13 games. Ruben Sellers is in charge now. You'd think the football's going to start to look better, but they did pick up a point at home recently, but they still don't quite look to be that threatening side that we kind of saw glimpses of earlier in the season. Last week they conceded 18 shots away to Coventry, a lot of them early on as well, before they were able to grab a goal against the run of play. So really, I don't really think much of that whole side right now. I think Swansea do look good at the moment. I watched them last week against Argyle, and Cullen was definitely a lively player who can kind of pop up all over the pitch. And I'm just thinking that if whole Swansea aren't the team you really want to be playing right now if you're trying to implement a style of play under a new manager, trying to do this and that. Like, Swansea can just turn around, suffocate you, keep the ball away from you, and they will eventually carve out the chances that they need. So Cullen is the one for me this week. Moving into League One now, I'll kick us off with the goalkeeper pick this week. I'm going for Mark Howard for Wrexham. I can see Ian smirking there. Yeah, pretty boring pick, 0.1% selected. He's in goal at the moment with the injuries to Okonkwo and Callum Burton. And okay, it's the third choice goalkeeper. You could be a bit wary of that. But listen, he has 2 clean sheets in 3 games. He's a perfectly capable backup. And this is one of the league's lowest scorers against the league's best defence as they travel to Bristol Rovers. So you got Wrexham, who have 5 clean sheets away from home. And we've spoken a lot about the Wrexham defence over the last few weeks. So, you know, they've only conceded 13 goals this season. It's by far the best in the league. And yeah, they're just really solid. Bristol Rovers, meanwhile, have only scored 2 goals in their last 7 games, including an FA Cup 0-0 away to Barnsley as well. Goalless in their last 2 home games, and they are without a manager. And I always think, maybe not always, but often when you have a manager change and they're waiting to appoint someone, the caretaker steps in charge, I just don't think you're going to see. It's not like the shackles are going to be released. They're not going to turn into this amazing attacking side overnight. If anything, they're probably just going to try and get a point from this. And the best way to do that is going to be to stop Wrexham from scoring. So I just think that if Rovers are going to try and play for a 0-0, which I don't think they're going to get, then I'm going to take the goalkeeper for Wrexham, who's going to have an easy day and keep a clean sheet, touch wood. It's the one that stands out for me in terms of, like we say before, it's a goalkeeper who I think is going to keep a clean sheet. That is the game that stands out of all of them in League One for me. So Mark Howard, I have checked. I don't think Okonkwo and Burton are back. I think Burton is expected back before Okonkwo, but he's still in rehabilitating as well. So while Howard's in goal, perfectly capable backup, I'm going to take him.
And I'm sure he's going to be delighted to be mentioned on the pod as well. It's not him doing the heavy lifting. He's obviously more than capable goalkeeper, but it is the defence in general. It's any of their 3 goalkeepers would just be an automatic pick when you look at who they're playing against and how well the defenders are playing in front of him. So yeah, perfect there.
Yeah, and we don't mean that in like a disrespectful way.
Oh, no,
Howard is a perfectly capable. He's already got two clean sheets in his first 2 starts in the league this year. You know, like absolutely solid choice. It just shows the depth they have in goal, which is a massive turnaround from last year, where they started the season with Ben Foster, who clearly wasn't in the right mindset, shall we say, to be playing League Two football, and they had to replace him after literally a month of the season. So this year they've come in with 3 solid goalkeepers.
Yeah, and they're not demanding they're not demanding a certain style of play from their goalkeepers, because they can all slot in and they don't look affected. The defence doesn't look affected in possession by having a keeper that's maybe not as capable on the ball as somebody else. They're all identical, really.
Exactly.
So moving into the League One defenders pick, I've gone for another fairly solid defence, and I should stress that the fairly part against a team in poor scoring form recently. So I've picked the Northampton Town Charlton Athletic fixture, and I'm putting forward Alex Mitchell. Mitchell has clocked 8 clean sheets this season and averaged over 1 tackle per 90. But it's the clearances that are off the scale, as Mitchell has already recorded 129 clearances. And with Northampton Town, who attempt a lot of long balls, but they have quite a poor completion rate. And to be honest, with the forward line that Northampton have, I'm not going to criticise them for this. They're a very capable team at home with a decent record. But I think Charlton are finding their rhythm of basically just being a pain in the ass. They don't have a lot of shots. They don't overly dominate on the ball, but their defensive shape and the back 5 really are limiting opposition lately.
Yeah, and another game as well where a team is travelling to another team without a manager. So again, like Northampton trying to get to grips with life after John Brady. So while they're still looking for their successor, I think that's may as well try and take advantage of the managerless. I think that's a solid pick. into midfield now, and hey, listen, we'll try and get things to get a little bit more exciting here. And I am picking one of the most exciting players in League One, one of my favourite players in League One. It's Taylor Asgard for Wigan Athletic. They are at home to Shrewsbury Town this weekend. Asgard so far, 6 goals and 2 assists this season. He's just off the back of a 13-point game against Bolton with a goal and an assist. He's averaging 5.9 points on the season, 2.98 shots per 90 with 1.4 on target. This guy is very much involved in Wigan's attacking play. Wigan themselves, maybe not one of the highest goal scorers in the league, but Asgard certainly is one of the best creators, best attacking players in the league. And they're playing a Shrewsbury side who, even with Ainsworth in charge, they have conceded 12 goals in their last 4 games. They've lost their last 2 games 4-1, and they've lost their last 3 games. So they're a side who concede a lot of shots. They concede, I think, the most shots in the league against. Maybe some of that was coming under while they're under Paul Hurst, but it looks like the defensive frailty hasn't really improved. Even the game they won under Ainsworth, they conceded twice against Birmingham. So I'm looking at this thinking a Wigan side who are fine. They do need to. I think they have underwhelmed a bit this season. I would like to see them higher up the table, certainly, but I think this is a game where they'll be like, this is one they should win, and they should win comfortably. And Asgard himself will be central, will be key, will look to get on the score sheet again after last week, and I'd definitely be happy to take him in my team.
Yeah, and again, this isn't a thing against Shrewsbury or Gareth Ainsworth. I just feel like until they get to January and you can change even a couple of the personnel, especially in that back line, you are best off taking advantage of playing against this sort of opposition. And I'm looking at Asgard's shots. He's had 49 shots this season. Look at the location. They're all central. And they're all really good scoring areas. He's got his XG is also 6, as well as scoring the 6 goals. So he's up to his XG. And honestly, he takes so many opportunities from really good areas. So against a leaky Shrewsbury team, I really like this pick here. And moving into the forward pick. Now, you were talking about picking a fun player. Now I've got a really fun selection here. This is my only forward on the pod, and I promise I'm not doing this to be controversial, but I want to talk about Will Swan for Crawley. He's a regular in this side. He's has 4 goals and 2 assists this season, with 4 goal contributions coming in the last 3 games. And here's why the selection is going to be bonkers. They're playing at home to Birmingham, who dominate the ball, concede the 3rd least amount of goals per 90, and in terms of quality, absolutely swamp this Crawley side. But there's one thing that gives me hope, and that can allow a forward on form to continue scoring, and that's how Crawley, they won't allow Birmingham to dominate possession. I feel like this is a challenge that Birmingham haven't really faced this season. So take Crawley's last game against Peterborough. In Posh's last 2 games, they managed 64% possession and 71% possession. But when they're at home against this Crawley side, they only managed 49%. Now, I'm not saying Crawley are good defensively, but they're certainly going to refuse to not have the ball. And with a few informed forwards, I feel Swan can have an impact on this game. And obviously, it's no surprise, he is 0% selected. But I wanted to go down a little bit of a different avenue before we get to the 3 games, where you're going to go for the more known forwards.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? I do think with Crawley, like they're a team that I like keeping my eye on, and at home recently, they've got a 3-0 win against Lincoln, a 2 draw against Huddersfield. They beat Rotherham 1-0. They're not pushovers. They're really not. They did have their struggles, but they've started to get the results back together. This is going to be a tough game. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that one for sure.
And look, I wasn't number 1 last week for nothing. It's players like this that I find that have got me in the position where I am. I'm not saying that Crawley are going to win. I'm not saying they're going to get a result, but I feel like there's a really good chance here that Swan can just get a goal. So moving to the next section, we've got League 2, and I'll kick us off with the goalkeeper. Now, first up, I was looking at Grant Smith for Bromley, because they are playing away from home to the Morecambe side, who have been really struggling lately. But also, Bromley just aren't great either, and I just don't trust them to get the job done here. This isn't a reflection on Bromley. Morecambe worry me sometimes when they look really hopeless. They can just pull a result out. So I'm steering clear from that one, and I'm just going to breeze through the actual selection. I'm going for Connor Ripley for Port Vale. He has 8 clean sheets in 20 games and has a good record. They lean a lot on Ripley with a high volume of saves, which obviously helps his points total. He's pretty average shot stopper, but hasn't made an error leading to a goal this season. And they play a Carlisle side at home who average 0.8 goals per match, which is the second lowest in the league. Like, there's not a whole bunch to talk about this pick, but it's a pretty sure, confident pick.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think not too much really to talk about there. It's one of the best teams in the league. It's one of the worst teams in the league at home. So I think that's solid enough reasoning. Into the fence, and I'm taking Robbie McKenzie for Gillingham, 0.8% selected. He's averaging 8.2 points. Hang on. Oh yeah, sorry. No, that's right. 3, 2, 1. He's averaging 8.2 points this season in 12 appearances with 4 goals, 18 tackles, 28 clearances. He's actually playing in midfield as well, which is kind of allowing him to get some of the tackles away. Obviously, it means you miss out on some of the things like interceptions and stuff if he should he pick them up. But still, it shows you that there is also that threat going forward. Like 4 goals this season isn't just coming from him being a centre back; it's coming from him actually playing him in midfield. And really, I think something that's interesting is when you look at the Gillingham results with and without McKenzie, because he has missed quite a few games this season. So when he's played the full game, there's 10 times he's played the full game, and they've won 7, drawn 1, lost 2, 22 points, only 4 goals conceded. When he hasn't played at all, or including one game where he played 10 minutes as well, they played 8 times. They've won twice, drawn 1, and lost 5, conceded 10 in the process. So there's a massive difference for just, okay, maybe it's not just down to him, but there's a massive swing in points in terms of how good Gillingham are when McKenzie's in the team compared to when McKenzie's out the team. And then there's a game against Crewe where they lost, but he only played half of that. So that can just go into either column, but it's fine. Listen, 1.18 shots per 90 as a midfielder, like I said, just under 1 tackle, 0.5 blocks per 90. Those stats can kind of sway with game state. If they're under pressure, he's going to be making more tackles, more blocks, and if they're on top, there's more chances of shots. Their opponents are Cheltenham, who have really improved recently, but they still concede plenty of goals. So the goal column here is probably a big chance. Defender goals are worth 7 points. Like, there's a big chance here for a goal from McKenzie against a Cheltenham side who are very open at the back. I mean, a clean sheet here would be the cherry on top, but I feel like it's not as many points as the goal. So I would take a goal over a clean sheet in this scenario, which I think is actually quite likely. I'll take both and be laughing. But yeah, McKenzie is my pick this week.
I don't want to sound salty here, but I had him scribbled down for next week on the pod because I knew I was going to talk about him. So I was really excited to do it. So I'm going to scratch those notes. But look, it's brilliant. It's, as like you said, it's 2 avenues to get points here. The goal and the clean sheet are both heavy bonuses, and he's really stood out this season. I don't ever remember him playing midfield, if I'm honest.
No, likewise.
Always remember him as a right back.
Yeah, it wasn't until I was really, really doing the research here, and I noticed it before, didn't take much notice of it. And then when I was looking at, their previous lineups, and I was looking along the back 4 for him and couldn't see him, and I was like, it definitely said he played this game, and I was like, oh, he's playing in that 2-man midfield. So fair enough. It's a new position for him this year. But it's interesting.
I've got to say, I noticed it when I looked at their top goal scorers, and he was second, and I was like, oh, is he scoring from corners? I was like, oh, let's have a look at it, and I realised no, he's just playing in midfield. I was like, okay, perfect. It's something to remember. And what percent selected is he currently?
0.8.
I can only see that going up when people realise that you have a goal scoring midfielder who can also contribute defensively.
Especially when that Gillingham, when that Gillingham team are good, they keep clean sheets. Like, a lot of their wins are 1-0, 2-0. Like, there's so many weeks where McKenzie's picked up like 16 points because it's goal, McKenzie, clean sheet, and it's you're laughing if you've got him in your team that week. It's great, and that's what I'm looking for this week. So
I think the only thing you're missing is you don't get interceptions from him, do you? But you do get clearances.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So I'll move on along to the midfielder, sticking with the theme of someone being in a position on EFL Fantasy, but actually playing elsewhere. I am going to go for Jack Lancaster, who has 5 goal contributions in the last 4 games. He's a midfielder on the EFL website, but he does basically play up front. He shares penalty duties with Cooney, so there's a chance that he can get a penalty here. Crew players in general don't have high tallies and goal involvements, apart from Lancaster, Cooney, and Tracy. So I've picked the one who's most in form lately. He has 5 assists, so it's perfect for a midfielder pick. And I'll be honest, I was looking at Matt Macy in goal for Colchester. He's kept 5 clean sheets in a row in all competitions, but coming away from home to a Crew side who are third in the league, it's a just complete different challenge. So I want to pick the forward, should I say, that's in really good goal scoring form.
Yeah, I really like Lancaster. When I was looking yesterday evening, preparing some picks for this week, he was 0.1% selected. I had him written down for that, and then when I double checked again this morning, he had gone up to 0.2. I only see that going up again, so yeah, I had my eye on him, but yeah, really, really solid player. I think as well, this week the news that Lee Bell has turned down a League One offer to stay with Crew is just gonna really invigorate that team. That they playoff finalists last year. They want to go the extra step this year. If Bell's committed, if the players are committed, I do see them doing that this year. They've certainly exceeded the expectations I had for them early in the season when they were conceding quite a few goals. They've sorted out their defence. They're not the biggest scorers, but when you've got Lancaster's goal contributions, he's definitely one to watch out for in a team that do know how to win games. Moving to the forward then, and you spoke about that Bromley Morecambe game earlier. Well, I actually am taking a forward from this game. It's one of, I feel like, everyone's favourite forwards in League Two. It's Michael Cheek. Listen, here I don't have to worry about the Bromley defence if they turn around and concede. It's just the fact that Cheek's just really stepped up to this level so well. I think you spoke about him a few weeks ago.
I certainly wanted to talk about him more as well. Yeah,
yeah. He's someone who just he's 1% selected, so it's not like he's going under the radar or anything. There's 10 goals so far this season. Like he's scored in his last 2 away games. It's an away game here. 2.65 shots per 90, 1.29 on target. Almost 5 touches in the opposition box as well per 90. And Morecambe have conceded the most goals this season. They've conceded 9 in their last 4 games. They're winless at home as well with 6 losses. Conceded 19 goals in 9 home games. Cheat's going to have chances. He's good enough to finish those chances. I definitely think that's who I want to be backing this week in League Two.
Yeah, and you're just basically, he doesn't score. I don't think he's scored often more than 1 goal a game. In fact, I don't know if he's done that at all, but you are just looking at a player that you feel really confident is going to get the 1 goal. As all you really need. You just need your striker to come up with 8 points, so you don't feel like you've missed out on points there, really.
Exactly. And out of all of them, this is the one I'm confident that the goal will come for him. So, yeah, definitely happy enough to suggest him as the League Two forward this week. We're now going to talk over our sub 0.1% pick, where every week myself and Ian pick a player who's been selected by 0.1% or less of players, and we have to put them into our starting team. So Ian, who's your pick for this week?
So I was actually going to let you have the choice of picking the 33-year-old centre-back in the Championship, who is obviously Steve Cook, or the 36-year-old centre-back who is a midfielder on EFL Fantasy and has only played 3 games. So naturally, because we've already covered QPR's defence, we're going to go and talk about John Joe O'Toole for Wimbledon. He's played the last 3 games. Matt, you can probably tell me why he's played the last 3 games. I'll keep an eye on if he is in the team for this week. But his stats, they're really easy to talk about. His defensive stats don't really matter as he's down a midfielder, so it protects him from conceding goals. In his last 3 games, his only 3 games, he's averaged 8.7 points and has a goal and an assist alongside 6 interceptions.
Yeah, really solid player. He's played the last 3 because he's been injured. He was injured earlier this season. He's come back into that Wimbledon side because they have a lot of injury issues all around the pitch. but B, because he's a really solid player and he would probably have started the season should he have been fit in that back
I
three.
thought you would have.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they have lots of options. You've got players like Johnson and Ogondere kind of switching on the left centre back. You've had Harbaugh's obviously come into the right side of the fence, but he, with Lewis back, he's had to make way. He stepped into midfield recently, actually, as well. They also have James Ball, who, similar to O'Toole, midfielder by trade, midfielder in the game, has stepped back into defence early in the season to fill that middle role, but now O'Toole's back. O'Toole will play in that middle centre back role. So, like you say, you're kind of looking for those interception stats and for the defender. Obviously, you miss out on some of the defensive stuff, but yeah, really, really solid player, really experienced player. No, I do like that pick, definitely.
He's just ridiculous in the box at set pieces as well, isn't he? So it's just another angle to go for there.
No, definitely, definitely. And like the way they've kind of tweaked their team recently as well. They were playing like a 3-5-2. It's now like a 3-4-3 with the injuries. You kind of feel like there's a bit of license for him to almost like step out and get the interceptions that way, because Ali Smith's playing a little bit more forward for them. So he's someone who would have protected the back three before. He's now getting further forward up the pitch. So then technically there's a space there for him to attack those interceptions and get points that way. Yeah, definitely. So no, yeah, solid choice there. My sub 0.1% pick, I'm going back to the Swansea whole game and I'm taking Goncalo Franco for Swansea. Portuguese midfielder who has kind of been in out of the team most of the season, but he's more in than out at the moment, and I'm expecting him to continue to start. He's got 1.52 shots per 90 and 1.45 interceptions per 90. So really, I'm looking at both sides of the ball here. You've got someone who's yet to score a goal for Swansea, but is taking shots. He's taken like 20 shots this season. That goal should be coming sooner or later. I'm hoping it's coming here. And the interceptions are good as well. He's good off the ball. He's good on the ball. He's kind of playing in that like midfield too. So I'm looking at someone who's picked up 10 points against Sunderland, 12 points against Luton. I don't have to worry about the defensive side of the game because he's not a defender. They can concede as many goals as they want. I'm simply looking at Franco interceptions and the chances that he should eventually start to score. He's 0.1% selection, and I just think that should his name, should he start more regularly, and should he eventually start to score goals for Swansea, he's only going to get selected more. So while he's at 0.1%, I think I'm going to take a gamble on him.
Yeah, just having a little look at his season last season in the League of Portugal. I do need to cross-reference this, but he had 59 interceptions last season, and in the league that was the most out of any midfielder. So certainly, if he can reflect that sort of stat as well as also popping up with a goal or chance creation, he's going to be a really popular player going forward as well.
Yeah, no, that is ridiculous. Yeah, it was 2 goals and 4 assists as well last season. Whilst like this season, it's just the 1 assist. So I'm hoping that output in front of goal is going to increase.
That's where Swansea have struggled as well, isn't it? Where recently they've been scoring. So
exactly, and when you actually look at his shot map, a lot of them in the box, a lot of them at the edge of the box. One of them from in his own half, which I don't really know what happened there, but maybe I'll try and find that one out. But yeah, an XG of 1.77, so no goals against that. Shows that, listen, he is getting chances that are scoreable, and I think eventually you feel like someone like that is going to start to score. And I feel like now Swansea are playing a lot better. They're starting to find the back of the net. I spoke about Cullen earlier, who's got 4 in his last 6. Well, Franco's the next one who I'm looking to take that step to start putting the ball in the back of the net. And then also it's just lovely to have the interceptions, because like we say as many times, the points of them are just so key sometimes. They're so easy to rack up that could also swing it. So yeah, Franco for me this week. So I'll give you a quick rundown of my full team. In goal this week I've got Connor Ripley. My back two is Jimmy Dunn and Joe Rodon. I've got Lancaster, Asgard and Franco in my midfield, and up top I've got Louis Barry.
And everyone's obviously here to see how I bounce on from last week and see if they can copy my team. I'll be interested to see if people have picked any players that I've got here. So I've gone Connor Ripley in goal, Alex Mitchell and Robbie McKenzie Defence, I've gone 3 midfielders and Joe Bellingham, Jack Lancaster, and John Joe O'Toole is a sub 0.1 pick. I have gone Emmanuel Latte Laft up front. So yeah, that rounds off my team. I've gone back to the 2 defenders, 3 midfielders, which I did last week after a couple of weeks ago, 3 defenders.
Yeah, no, I've done the same. Yeah, I feel like I might try and squeeze Mackenzie back into my team. Not just because you've said it, because when I spoke
No,
about
no, you
him,
don't need to.
it was just like, well, seeing as I spoke about him, you've technically copied my pick this week. But yeah, it was really hard trying to squeeze the sub 0.1% pick in. So I'm debating who's droppable still. So, but as always, keep up to date on our socials. We're active on Bluesky, at Football Breakdown, at Ian Cooper, at Matthew South. If you want to keep up to date with our teams, we're also on X at FBBD Pod. Less active there, but still active there. Any changes we make to our teams, we will post on the socials. So do keep up to date if you want to see what our final teams are before the balls kick tomorrow. Now, Ian, do you want to run me through your 2 teams for this week? So as always, Ian and myself will place a £5 bet on our 2 teams to win their game, and we have a running head-to-head tally. As always, please gamble responsibly, and this is for over 18s only. Last week, Ian took the lead with his double win of Sheffield United and Chesterfield. He's back in the positives now. I had an absolutely rotten week, so I still haven't won since a decent return on the first week, basically. Ian, who have you gone for this week?
Well, Stephen, I'm just in the positive. Let's go for a bigger bet. I've gone for 2 championship teams. I've managed to get QPR at home to Preston. We've spoken about QPR, how good they are defensively. I just feel like that's going to contribute them to getting a win here. And for the next game, I've gone Sheffield United against Cardiff. They were away from home, so I got good odds there. I've only picked Sheffield United once, which was last week, so now I've only used them twice, so I'm not too bothered about getting them back in straight away. And the £5 returns £26.14.
Very good. Yeah, I'm picking Sheffield United as well. Away from home, looking for those points. Decent odds on them to win. My home game this week, I'm playing it really, really safe. I'm picking Leeds. I ignored Sheffield United last week because I completely misread how many times I'd used them. I thought I was going to be nearing the limit on them. I'm not. I don't know how I did that. And I feel like Leeds Oxford this week is the equivalent of the Sheffield United Argyle game last week. Just feels like the guaranteed 9 points you're hoping for, a 2-3-0 win. Happy days. So my £5 returns £11.88, which will get me back into the positives. So yeah, hoping for at least a decent scoring week after last week's horror show for me and the teams.
And essentially just trying to catch me up again, really.
You say again, this is the first time you've been ahead of me. Stop milking me.
No, I was ahead last week.
Well, not in the teams, seeing as you hadn't won, seeing as none of us have won in the teams yet. But yes, this is the second week you've been ahead in the fantasy. The first week you've been ahead in the team head-to-head. So,
what a week! What a week!
Big week for you, big week. And that brings us to the end of this week's show. We will be back next week, a bit earlier than usual, as we do the bumper triple game week that kicks off on Boxing Day. But until then, yeah, like I said, please keep up to date with our socials if you want to track how we're getting on this week. And if you want to share who your picks are for this week as well. And please tell us if you think any of our picks are good or bad as well. But please as well, enjoy your weekend. And thank you all for listening. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Matthew. See you next week.
See you next week. Take it easy.